public comment. Morning, Chuck. What can we do for you?
Shut my phone up, please. I'm here to discuss the conditional use permit that's before you for the 6 RV sites in the Shoreland District. And one thing I'm not doing a good job of getting across is that the use is a permitted use in a shoreland district. And the site that I'm on is the old railroad bed that's that I bought from Burlington Northern Railway. I knew that when I bought it. The railroad bed, the topography, if you haven't been out there, obviously is flat because of railroad tracks. But before you can get to the lake across the road, you have to go down, it would be considered more than a steep slope or more than a bluff impact zone, much more. And then it flattens out into probably a 25-foot or so wetland, and then you got to climb back up to Highway 71. The reason I'm bringing that up is that seems to be one of the hang-ups with the permit, with people crossing the road, crossing Highway 71 to get to the lake. The only real practical access point is at 150th Street, is on 150th Street, which this lot borders. And then it's where people park now and cross the road to go fishing and that sort of thing. There's public access on the very north end, and that goes pretty much across from where my property is. And so what I'm looking at right now is permitted. Without a conditional use permit, I'm allowed to have 2 RVs on that site. And that's without a permit, and I don't have to do, I guess I have to get $25, fee or something for each RV. Not quite.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, good morning, everybody. Is there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would request that we add to the consent agenda, item 4.10, accept resignation of Amber Piercy, effective September 4th of 2023, and 4.11, accept resignation of Chris Matthews, effective 9/8 of 2023.
Okay, you've heard the changes. Is there a motion, please? Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes. All right. Consent items.
Today's consent items are the meeting minute approval, August 1st, 2023, Long Prairie Lions one-day temporary on-sale liquor license, hire part-time correctional officer Katie Schultz, start date to be determined, hire part-time dispatch Karen Nelson, start date to be determined, hire part-time dispatch Mara Brisnow, start date to be determined, appoint social worker Lisa Grossinger, start date to be determined, appoint social worker Kelsey Hoffman, start date to be determined, resignation of Laura Panensky, planning and zoning intern, 8/11/2023, resignation Faith Rentiera, deputy auditor treasurer, part-time, 7/28/2023, and resignation of Amber Percy, 9/4/23, and resignation of Chris Matthews, 9/8/23.
Okay, you've heard the consent items. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes. Okay. Auditor treasurer.
Well, first item I have today is the auditor warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the July 2023 auditor warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $6,363,649.98.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
The next item I have then is the commissioner warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling in the amount of $191,241.30.
Okay, I've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Next item I have is the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants. Background is sent for review. The recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling in $92,090.56.
Okay, I've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
The next item I have is the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants. Background is sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling in the amount of $108,850.24.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
The next item I have is the Housing and Redevelopment Authority Board appointment. Background. A letter from the Todd County HRA has been received requesting approval of appointments of Bonnie Thule, District 1, and Vernon Tenian, District 5, to the Todd County HRA Board. Along with this is the oath that each appointee has completed. Your options are to approve the appointees or do not approve them. The recommendation is to approve the attached resolution for the appointment for the term expiring September 18th, 2028 for Bonnie Thule, District 1, and for the term expiring September 18th, 2027 for Vernon Tenian, District 5 of Todd County HRA Board. Both of these appointees' terms starting September 19th, 2023.
Mr. Chair, I believe I would make a motion for the appointment of Bonnie Thole, but I do believe Verna is a employee of the county, and in the document she signed, it asked if you cannot be an employee of the county. So with that, I make a motion to approve Bonnie.
Okay. So we have a motion by Commissioner Becker to appoint Bonnie to the HRA, and
Have
we
discussion with Verna after this
Okay.
motion.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by Danny. Further discussion? Chris, did you want to look into that? And-
Mr. Chair, I certainly will.
Okay. And just, yeah, I'm glad that she put her name in, in the hat and wanted to be on this, but if there's a conflict, we can't do it, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do have them attached, Mr. Chair, and it does say, I do swear that I am.
Yeah.
Right here, it says that I am not a public officer or an employee of said county.
Right. Okay,
That
I
is part of
will-
that, I guess.
all right. Any further discussion on that? If not, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
The next item I have is the transfer of funds. Transfer of funds, county ditch inspector hours. Background, the assessment cycle for the county ditch expenses closes annually on June 30th. The tracked hours of the ditch inspector's work on specific ditches is accumulated and requires transfer as an expense to each ditch system on an annual basis to align with accounting standards per the county board's past practice and resolution. Recommendations to approve the attached resolution to transfer $5,460 from Fund 40 County Ditch to Fund 1 General Revenue Fund, County Ditch Inspector's Department, which is the time the ditch inspector worked on the county ditches per the attached list, and it is a budgeted item.
Okay, for the request, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Public Works, Lauren.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First item on the agenda this morning is a request for approval of a utility easement to the city of Long Prairie over the Public Works property out on Riverside Drive. And the background is, as part of the cooperative agreement project with the city of Long Prairie for the reconstruction of CASA 56, the existing sewer line and a lift station was replaced that has been previously located on Public Works property. In order to document the new location of the sewer line and lift station, the attached easement and exhibits were prepared. So before we get into discussion, I'd like if we could request just to scroll down, I'd like to just look at the map. And I apologize, Commissioner Noska, you won't be able to see me pointing up here, but I'm gonna stand up here. If we can scroll down a little bit. I'm gonna go behind John here. Or one more down, thank you. Sorry, I wasn't being very clear. But basically, the new line is here, this dotted line here, which the sewer line was before the project existed, went from Riverside Drive, going basically east all the way down to a lift station down here, lift station being a pump that pumps the sewer to the treatment facility. As part of the construction project, the new line had to go adjacent to it, but not over the top, because it still had to run as we did the project. So basically, once the project was complete, we realized the new line really wasn't in the center of the easement. So to correct that, we had the city and the engineer and their survey department put together the attached easement, basically correcting the existing easement to be centered over the new line. So it's basically a correction of what was there before to make it more accurate for the future. So with that, I guess our options are to approve or not to approve the attached easement. And our recommendation this time is to approve the attached easement, granted a utility easement to the city of Long Prairie, specifically for this sewer and lift station.
Okay. You've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yeah.
Commissioner Noska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Our second item on the agenda this morning is basically just an informational item. And the background is the attached letter is basically, we got a letter from the Minnesota Department of Transportation that we are now awarded a grant of, let me make sure I got this right, $581,965.50 from the recent state legislator bonding program for the last year. And this is through the local bridge replacement program. And specifically, this grant is to help fund our project in County Road 14, just east of the city of Browerville over the Long Prairie River. We've been working on this project for a number of years, getting it developed. The plans have been approved. The permits are already set in place. We've got the easements all done. We're basically waiting for the funding. Now that the legislature passed the bonding bill, we were part of the program, and they've basically given us word that we've got this money to help reduce our local dollars or our state aid dollars to construct this bridge. Therefore, we've had included it in our 5-year plan and plan on delivering the project next fall as part of our local or our annual construction program. So basically an informational item, just letting you know we got the grant for roughly $580,000.
And, excuse me, Mr. Chair, Lauren, you said your, next fall would probably be the time frame to do
Yeah,
it?
and that's a great question, if I may expand on that. Basically, now that we've got this, in order for us to go out and advertise, find a contractor, award a construction contract, we'd be into October, and it takes 3 months to build the bridge. So this year, it just isn't gonna work.
Oh.
We can get this contract, the bidding documents ready this winter, do an early letting, and get it set up so the contractor knows they have work this winter and deliver it next fall. They can get all their materials in order, their pits in order, and get everything ready to go, and that'll get us the best price if we do it that way.
Mr. Chair, Lauren, are you going culverts on that one, or?
No, this is a span bridge.
It is going to be
Yep,
a span?
absolutely. This is a concrete span bridge.
Okay.
Yep. The Long Prairie River, all of our structures are span bridges. There's just too much volume for us to put in a box culvert.
Okay.
Yep. Very similar to the one on County Road 26. The one-on-one we just did, 38. Basically, steel-driven piles into the ground, concrete structure up on top.
Okay.
Very solid bridge.
Great. Any other-
So, that was just an informational topic.
Right. Thanks.
So if there's any other questions, I'll move on. So thank you. Our last item on the agenda is a request for final payment authorization for a 2023 pavement marking contract. Our options are to approve or not approve the attached resolution. And our recommendation is to approve the attached resolution making final payment for this contract to Sir Lancelot Incorporated, or LLC, for $7,015.52.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Danny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Good.
All righty, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Mhm. County Assessor.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm here today to present two separate abatements. The first abatement that I have is on parcel 36-0129500. On May 12th of 2023, the house and garage on this parcel, which were owned and occupied by Randy and Kristen Mickles, was burned by fire. Mr. Mickles applied for an abatement. Approval of the abatement would reduce the 2023 estimated market value for taxes payable next year. In other words, there won't be a reduction of 23 taxes. There won't be any money going back to him because of this, because it happened in this year. So a little extra background. After the 2023 Board of Appeal was done in June, our values are set. So any changes to value for 23 have to come before the board. So that's what this is presenting today. So your options today would be to reduce the 23 estimated market value on parcel 36-0129500 from $555,700 to $22,600. Or to not approve the abatement. My recommendation today is to approve the abatement for the reduction of value on parcel 36-0129500 from $555,700 to $22,600.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Is that just the 22,000? That's the price of the land now?
That's the price of the land. Yep.
Further discussion? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
All right. The second abatement I have today is on parcel 36-0111200. This house and garage were also destroyed by fire. This fire occurred on May 15th of 2022. It was owned and occupied by James and Lori Larson. This house was partially destroyed. It wasn't completely destroyed. Mr. Larson's applied for an abatement. The approval of this abatement would reduce the 2022 estimated market value for taxes payable in 23 and refund a portion of the 23 property taxes. This property was not 100% destroyed. It was roughly 70%. So there is some residual value on the house and garage. So your options today is to reduce the 2022 estimated market value of parcel 36-0111200 from $242,200 to $83,300, which would result in a property tax reduction of $2,222 for 2023. Other options to not approve the abatement. My recommendation today is to approve the abatement.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yep. All right.
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Chris.
Ditch Ag Inspector. Morning, Nancy.
Good morning. I have one agenda item today. It's the County Ditch 29 hold harmless agreement for ditch maintenance. Options are approve or do not approve the hold harmless agreement, and the recommendation is Todd County Board of Commissioners approves the following by motion. Acting as ditch authority, approves a hold harmless agreement petition from Tyler Becker to clean approximately 1,531 feet of County Ditch 29 on parcel 0700-28600, Eagle Valley Township, Section 24. This project will be done on Tyler's own property and at his own expense.
Okay. All right, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion.
And it's just so I'll go ahead.
You're looking at the pictures, you said County Road 20?
Yes. So you can see the ditch line follows County Road 20 and for about 453 feet, I believe it is, and then it heads north. And he wants to clean for sure that quarter-mile section, and then the highway department did already go out and clean the culvert out. So if the water runs well enough through the road right away, he won't do the road right away. If he needs to still do part of the right of way, he's going to be required to remove that spoil so it's not on the road right of way edge and move it onto his field. That's to the west there.
Yeah. For those of you out there, we just changed our hats. Now we're the ditch authority, so. Okay, so any further discussion on this? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Nazca?
Yes.
And Commissioner Newman?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll switch our hats back. All right, Health and Human Services. Lori, Central Minnesota Council on Aging. Will you please introduce yourself? We got a couple of new board members, so.
Yes, so thank you for having me here today. I'm Lori Verolson, the director of the Central Minnesota Council on Aging. So the Council on Aging, we are a nonprofit organization, but we're designated by the state to serve as the area agency on aging for the 14 county areas. So in the state of Minnesota, there's 6 area agencies on aging that cover the entire state. And as I said, we are a nonprofit organization, but our board is all county commissioners. Commissioner Newman serves on our board from Todd County. So we have a 15-member board, and then we have an advisory as well. And Lauren Hubert serves on the advisory from Todd County. And so as the Area Agency on Aging, we really have 3 key responsibilities, and that is that we work with communities on developing alternatives to nursing homes and assisted livings, really looking at how we can rebalance our long-term care system throughout our region to have the right mix of services and support so older adults can remain living at home for as long as possible, and to have those in place. And then we do only do one direct service, and that's the senior linkage line, and that's actually a program of the Department of Health and Human Services, and then they contract with the 6 area agencies on aging to provide. And so within senior linkage, we have both telephone and in-person assistance available where we can really help people evaluate their situation and get connected to the real community-based services that are available for them. Once again, with the goal to really help people remain living in the location that they just decide, whether that's in their own home, an apartment setting, if they need to make a transition to an assisted living or nursing home, to help them understand that process as well. And then the key function that we do as an area agency on aging is that we allocate out at the local level federal Older Americans Act funding. So annually we receive it varies because right now we have some ARPA dollars, but we usually award between $2.5 and $3 million a year to area providers that do in-home support services, meals, transportation, chore, homemaker, caregiver supports. Once again, services that really work to keep older adults in their own homes and support family caregivers. And the support of family caregivers is really important because we know that the bulk of care in Minnesota is actually done by families, and when families become stressed or burnt out, they do end up having to transition their loved one from home to the nursing home. So it's really important that we have the right mix of services available so that families can continue to provide the level of services that they wanted to their family members. So with that, as I said, we annually award out about $2.5 to $3 million a year. In the document that you have in front of you, you'll see that in 2022, we awarded out just over $199,000 specifically for services in Todd County. And our grants with providers in Todd County is Catholic Charities, Lutheran Social Services, and Mid-Min Legal Aid. In 2023, we have entered into a few new agreements. One is with, well, I'll talk about that in a minute, but if you look at this chart, you'll see what were the specific services provided in Todd County last year. Senior linkage, we served 604 individuals through senior linkage. The transportation shore, you'll see these are very low numbers. This is actually done by Holding Fort Helping Hands, and there were 2 individuals that they were providing rides with, primarily to grocery shopping and medical appointments, and then they provided 1 person with a grab rail out here in Todd County. Their typical services area is the Holding Fort area. Congregate dining, we have 2 locations that Lutheran Social Services has congregate meals happening at the Hilltop and then at the Staples Senior Center, the community center in Staples. And then with with congregate dining, we'll see that about 158 individuals were served with 1,869 meals. The congregate sites really started coming back in 2022 during COVID. Those were closed, and so it's been a little bit slower transition to get people back to congregate again, but they're starting to pick up, and we're seeing that increasing more in 2023. Home delivered meals is where you'll see that we've had an increase in 292 individuals were served last year from Todd County with just over 31,000 meals. And this is happening both traditional home delivered meals by Lutheran Social Services, where they're really trying to reach individuals that are having difficulty leaving their home to get to a congregate site or difficulty preparing meals. They're delivering a combination of hot meals and frozen meals. Ideally, we like the home delivered meals to be done daily, Monday through Friday, as hot meals, but our nutrition providers, as we're seeing really across the state, have been struggling with recruitment of volunteers to delivered meals, and so they're having to couple that with staffing. And these programs are having staffing shortages just as everyone else. So they are doing a combination of frozen meals and hot meals. And then we also have a contract that we started during COVID with Catholic Charities to do frozen distribution of frozen meal bundles. So in Todd County, they're doing this at Lakewood, Browerview Food Shelf, and then Harmony Apartments during their nutrition NAP site, which is a food commodity site. And what they do is they bring bundles of 10 frozen meals, and individuals, for example, at the Browerville Food Shelf can pick up to 20 frozen meals at that time. So once a month they're out there and trying to reach really those low-income seniors. And so in addition to picking up their food shelf items, they can also pick up the 20 frozen meals. And I guess I negated to say that with the Older Americans Act funding, we're really trying to serve individuals that are 60 plus and that are lower income. And it's really, trying to be that safety net with getting basic services to individuals that really probably are not yet on medical assistance but are lower income and have some frailty, and trying to get them some basic assistance so they can remain living at home. With the Older Americans Act services, these services are provided on a donation basis, so individuals are informed of what, for example, with the home delivered meals, they're informed of what the full cost of the meal is, which is about $7.10, and then they're provided with a recommended donation of I believe it's $4.50 for the home delivered meals out in this area. And then individuals are provided with the service regardless if they're able to contribute or not. And so it's really, like I said, we're trying to target lower income seniors. And that's why in the last 3 years, we've also extended the contract to Catholic Charities to do frozen meal bundles in partnerships with some of the food shelves and nutrition assistance sites. And then in 2022, you'll see with caregiver services, it's that was with Lutheran Social Services, and we don't have a contract with them in 2023 for caregiver supports, but we are contracting with the Dementia Community Action Network out of St. Cloud, where they have a clinic location where individuals can come to the clinic and receive an assessment specifically for Alzheimer's. They have a physician, a nurse practitioner, and an occupational therapist that does a multi-prong assessment. But then out here in Todd County, they also have caregiver support groups that they've started up both in Long Prairie and in Staples. So they're out here once a month, and they operate the support groups for caregivers, and then they also available to do caregiver consultation. So both in person out here or individuals, they can meet with them over the phone or virtually as well. But with the caregiver consultation service, really the point is to help individuals and caregivers along their journey of caregiving. So for example, if they're caring for a family member with Alzheimer's, that caregiver consultant is going to work with them at the stage that family member is in. So if their family member is, for example, experiencing some aggressive behavior traits that sometimes occurs with individuals with Alzheimer's, they're able to provide them with some tips and tactics to deal with behavior modifications. But it's really meant to do that on a one-to-one basis where that individual is at in their journey. And so, like I said, that contract just started in 2023, and so we're hoping that that we'll see increased service delivery with the caregiver supports in Todd County this year. We also have a new contract with Horizon Health out of Piers, where they're extending their Pearls program out in Todd County. Verna Tenney was very instrumental, so we thank you for her help in identifying some individuals out in this area that have now been trained in Pearls, which is an evidence-based intervention that is focused on individuals with mild to moderate depression and anxiety, and it's a counseling type sessions that are provided to them either in person, or they can be done virtually or over the phone as well. And so Horizon Health has expanded that service out into Todd County. And then legal services is through the Mid-Min Legal Aid, and they reached 49 people from Todd County with 161 hours of legal counsel. What you don't see in Todd County that is very common in some of the other counties that we serve is that we typically have units of homemaker, for example, doing light laundry, house cleaning, grocery shopping assistance, assisted transportation to doctor's appointments, grocery stores, social service visits, and chore, which can be like leaf raking, lawn mowing, as well as putting in, for example, a grab rail or real minor home repair. And so, you know, it is an area out here that we are seeking we're seeking some providers that would be interested in either expanding their service or they may not be serving older adults right now, but would have an interest in doing so. We do have grant dollars available that we can award out, and so it is something that we're continuously trying to have conversations with potential new providers, as I said, to either expand service or add this as a book of business. So if any of you have ideas on potential leads for that, you know, let myself know, or you can also let Commissioner Newman know, and he can reach out to us, and we can help them either apply through our funding or other avenues as well to get the services out there. So with that, do you have questions in terms of the Older Americans Act services?
Well, yesterday we had the pleasure of going up to Hilltop Kitchen, Commissioner Denny, Commissioner Becker, myself, and the coordinator. It was interesting. They educated us a little bit more on Lutheran.
Lutheran Social Services?
Yes.
Yes, yep.
Okay, there was a question that was brought up because of Eagle Bend being so close to Otter Tail County.
Mm-hmm.
And Otter Tail's in, I believe, the land of Dance and Sky.
Right.
Yeah, so they couldn't serve meals into land of Dancing Sky.
So Lutheran Social Services has a contract as well with Land of the Dancing Sky
Yeah.
to do meals. So, you know, we do have meals that our providers are doing that service outside of our region. So, there shouldn't be an issue with individuals if they're, for example, coming to the congregate site there that are from Otter Tail. They still should be able to come to that congregate location and receive meals. It would come out of their contract that they have with us.
Okay.
That shouldn't be a barrier. So I will follow up with Lutheran Social Services staff because that shouldn't be a barrier for people coming over from Otter Tail, because we have quite a few locations throughout our region where people, you know, border, and we try to make sure that that's not an issue, whether it's with transportation, caregiver supports, meals. Now, if they were receiving a home delivered meal, then those would happen through the Lutheran Social Services contract from Land of the Dancing Sky. So I'll follow back up with Roxanne at Lutheran Social Services.
Is that how you guys took it?
It was more of a regional boundary than anything, yeah. Because they were outside of the region.
Right.
Yeah, and it really shouldn't, there shouldn't be, from the consumer standpoint, there shouldn't be an issue for them to receive the meal. It would be Lutheran Social Services figuring out what funding stream to bill it to, whether it would be charged to the Central Minnesota Council on Aging's contract that we have with them or to Land of the Dancing Sky. But from that consumer standpoint, they shouldn't have an issue receiving their meal. So I'll follow back up.
Right,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I could you clarify the cost of the meals? You said the cost of the meal was $7.10, and then there was a surcharge, or how?
No, there's
Could
a,
you
so,
clarify that?
so what happens is that individuals, when they receive their service, whether it's meals, transportation, whatever the service is, I'll use meals though as an example, that client is informed of what the full cost of the meal is, and then what a recommended donation is. And the recommended donation, I should never quote myself, I believe it's $4.50. But they're informed of what the full cost of the meal is. And then the recommended donation, but the individual, whether they contribute or not, they're provided with the service.
Okay, so the recommended would be that $4.50 then?
Right,
The partial cost of the meal then?
right,
Okay.
right. So, and then, like I said, whether they contribute or not, individuals are not denied service based on their contribution.
Thank you.
Yep. And then they also, so with the, in particular with the home delivered meals, both Lutheran Social Services and Catholic Charities, they also, in addition to having a contract with for Older Americans Act funding through us, they also are a waivered service provider. So, for example, your case managers may be contracting with Lutheran Social Services for home delivered meals under the waiver. And so some of the individuals that's not factored into these numbers. These are only the ones that are being paid through the Federal Older Americans Act dollars. And then if it's part of their waivered care plan, then Lutheran Social Services, for example, would receive their reimbursement under the waiver payment.
Okay. I'm asking this question because I was talking with an individual that supposedly we're supposed to be getting these meals free, and then there was a slip of paper in there, and then she felt she was obligated to start paying for them, and she was paying this way more. And that's I guess where my question comes from is if there's paper or some kind of instructions inside those boxes, if some of these people are not understanding,
Yep, so if it was a Older Americans Act funded service, then during the initial assessment, when they're doing the intake and assessment, they would be explaining to them the donation-based side of it. And for the congregate, if they're receiving a congregate meal, there is the ability to donate at the site, or they can also mail in a donation. But with the home delivered meals, they are sent on a month. I believe Lutheran Social Services sends it out on a monthly basis to the client, how many meals they receive during the month, what the recommended donation is, and once again, it's clearly in there that whether they donate or not, they still will receive the meal. That is a voluntary donation. If they're receiving the waiver, if they're receiving the meal under the waiver, they may be on a waivered obligation where they have an amount that they have to pay towards their obligation. So it really would depend who they're receiving the meal, not necessarily who they're receiving the meal from, how the meal is being paid
Yeah.
for. Yes.
Right, okay.
Okay, any other questions? So to give you guys an idea, Central Minnesota Council on Aging office is located in Sartell, in the Deseric building.
Yep,
correct?
we're in the Deseric building, and then we have, for example, our linkage staff. We have a linkage staff person that has site time at Lakewood Healthcare System once a month, and then is also available throughout the time to meet in person with individuals. And then we have a program development staff person located out of Brainerd that really works in this area on developing, working with communities out in the 5 counties in this northern part of the region. And so annually, we do put a request in to Todd County Board for $2,534, and that is used for our 14 county area. We have just over $50,000 of administrative match that we need in order to draw down the federal Older Americans Act dollars, and then we prorate that by each of the counties. And so that amount has remained consistent over the last 7 or 8 years. And so I did put the request in June, as I know that you're working on your budgets for next year, so that you have that in front of you as well. And then continued appointment of a commissioner to our board, and Commissioner Newman has been a wonderful asset to our board, so we always appreciate your leadership.
Thank you. Okay. So I think we'll pass that today, the request for the 2,500. That hasn't changed forever.
No, well, our administrative, our funding from the federal government remains flat, so your request to you remains flat. Now, we're still, there's a new interstate funding formula that will be going into effect in 2025, and so with that, there may be some small alterations in that request, but yes, our funding remains flat, so our requests to you have remained flat for many years now.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add, so this funding has in the past come through Health and Human Services, so that's factored within the Health and Human Services budget, so we don't have an action for the board to take today.
Okay. All righty. But we are in favor of it, so just to let you know.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate you driving up today. And is there any other questions for Lori? No. So one day maybe one of you guys can take my place, go down there, and it's a really interesting meeting and with the 14 counties and just overseeing the seniors, and if anybody's got any questions too, if they got an elderly parent or anything, get on the senior linkage line and call.
Yep.
So
It's a wonderful resource, so
yep.
thank you for all your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie.
All right.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm here today to amend Board Action Form 2023-0801-11 with the corrected job description. Just some background, we presented on August 1st those two positions, Child Services Manager and a Child Services Supervisor. Inadvertently, the incorrect job descriptions were posted with the request for the position, so we wanted to make it right and bring it back to the board to amend and hopefully approve those job descriptions correctly. So your options are to approve the Board Action Form 2023-0801-11 with the corrected job descriptions, or to not approve, and it's our recommendation that you approve the Board Action Form 2023-0801-11 with the corrected job descriptions.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Jackie, the pay scale and pretty much everything all
Remains.
remained the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, there was minor changes with programs being assigned to the manager and supervisor and going into the right unit. So, yes, no changes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes,
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you. Facilities.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
The topic for this agenda is the solid waste furnace replacement. The background is, after inspection of the current furnace and air conditioning equipment at the solid waste facility, the Facilities Committee is recommending replacement of both due to condition and age of equipment. Bids were submitted with the lowest bid being from North Star Plumbing, Heating, and AC for a total of $8,950 for both the new furnace and air conditioning equipment. The options are to approve the low bid from North Star Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning for the replacement of both furnace and air conditioning equipment for a total of $8,950. The option two, you do have an additional option to approve only the furnace, which low bid was also from North Star Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning for $4,050, or do not approve request. The recommendation is to approve the low bid from North Star Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning for replacement of both furnace and air conditioning equipment for a total of $8,950.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
Chair, could I have a question first?
Yep.
Yeah.
This was going to, for financial, this was going to be paid out of your fund or?
No, this will be coming out of,
Solid waste?
yes,
fund?
I did get in touch with our solid waste supervisor on if they had something in their fund to replace this, and he said yes. Their fund is 51, and he gave me the number that they wrote, account number that they would be taking it out of. So yes, we're just helping out the solid waste with the project and managing for them. So that's some things that's obviously a little bit more in my wheelhouse for myself. So we just decided that we should help them out and make it an easier transition for them.
Mr. Chair, I would make that motion for approval of the heater and the air conditioner, but just add in that it was the funding is coming from solid waste.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Mr. Chair, it is marked on the board action, budgeted yes. Financial implication, $8,950. Funding source, Fund 51. As Mitch stated, is the solid
Is
waste
the
fund.
solid waste?
Yes.
Documented
Okay.
on
Yep,
this board action.
it is documented. Yes, I apologize for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so motion by Becker, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Solid waste, Mike. Morning.
Good morning. The first item I have before you today is the purchase of a forklift. We solicited 3 bids for the replacement of the damaged forklift that was in the department. The department received the 3 bids, and FM forklift out of Fargo, North Dakota was the low bid of $40,549. It is our recommendation to purchase that forklift. This machine is available immediately, and this item was discussed along with our solid waste committee. So our options is to approve the bid from FM forklift or do not approve. Our recommendation for the commissioners is to approve this, follow motion to approve that bid for $40,549. It is funded to the CAP grant funding.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Okay. The second item we have before you is the purchase of a grapple bucket. The department is requesting the purchase of a grapple bucket attachment for our CAT 926M front loader. This will assist the processing materials throughout our facility and will enhance productivity with the new transfer station when it opens. The price from Ziegler CAT is $29,394 with a 6-week lead time. The purchase was discussed also along with our solid waste committee. The options is to approve the purchase of the bucket or do not approve the purchase of the bucket. It is our recommendation to approve this attachment purchase for $29,394, and this is also a CAP grant budgeted item.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion. If none, all in favor? Oh, roll call.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Nasca?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
All right.
Alrighty, thank you.
you.
Adam?
Good morning.
Morning.
My first item this morning is the Candota Landing Incorporated request for a CUP. This application for conditional use was submitted on April 10th to establish 6-site commercial plan unit development on parcel 1700399701 in Little Sauk Township. This was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the June 1st public hearing and was remanded back to the Planning Commission during the June 20th Commissioners meeting. Planning Commission reviewed the application again during the August 3rd meeting, and the final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the application with the conditions identified below. Options are to grant the permit with the conditions, deny the application, or remand it back to the Planning Commission. And the recommendation would be to grant the application for 6-site commercial planning and development on parcel 1700399701 with the following conditions. 1. Placement of RVs in each campsite shall respect all property boundaries, or property setbacks. 2. Planning and development is capped at 6 campsites as requested in the application. Additional campsites shall require review of the Planning Commission. 3. The applicant must abide by all their applicable federal, state, and local standards. 4. Protective covenants shall be recorded to the property upon approval of the application. And 5. That a holding tank for sewage treatment shall be installed prior to placement of campers. Hookup sites for each campsite shall be installed at the time of tank installation.
Okay.
And the map is included up there. You can see where it was. You're probably somewhat familiar with this. The only thing that changed, well, a couple of things changed. From originally brought it, there was the recommendation to deny the application. This time, the recommendation is to approve with these conditions, similar to the conditions we had originally, but they added the last part of hooking up each campsite to that tank.
All right, you've heard the
Mr.
request?
Chair, Adam, can you, because the gentleman Chuck was in here
Mhm.
earlier, I mean, what he was asking for, I mean, he was asking for 2 sites, right?
Right.
And now with the CUP, he can't get his 2 sites. Did he not step backwards?
So I'll try to back up and explain the larger picture here a
Okay,
little bit, if
thank
that's
you.
okay. Chuck applied for 6 sites.
Yeah,
With meeting with him before he even applied, I was walking through what the Planning Commission is going to want to see from him, including septic requirements. So we actually have a design in the folder here that he submitted with his application knowing he was going to need it. The night of the first meeting, things changed where under the ordinance, he could have just applied for regular land use permit, $50 to have a campsite. And if you have a property that doesn't have a dwelling on it, you can have a second campsite. So that's what he was referring to, what's allowed by ordinance. But when you apply for a CUP and you apply for 6, you're subject to review of that application of 6 sites. The other thing with that is that it's very difficult. The more elaborate conditions you create, the more difficult it is to follow up and enforce those conditions. Chuck's also referencing that he's intending to have friends and family only. We can't review based on that because Chuck may not own that property forever. We're in a situation where the Planning Commission, I think, considered all of those options, but ultimately wants to set this up for the long-term success of the application. And the way to do that was to put the sewer in now, get your 6 sites, everything set for the long term, even after, because the CUP travels with the property, even with ownership change. And I don't know if there's more you wanted to add there too.
Yeah, no, that's like, you guys did a good job explaining that night, or the past 2 months about that to Chuck, about, you know, you could have had your 2 regular sites without the CUP, but then now it's, you put the CUP in, now you have to do it, the whole thing right now, before any campers go in there.
And the option was discussed during the meeting too, to just totally withdraw the application and start over. So you can apply like we talked about, get your 2 sites, and when you're ready to expand further, then you come back to the Planning Commission to go for 6 at that point, to add the 4 more. And this was the direction Chuck chose to go. And the Planning Commission found the conditions and everything was met to approve it. So that's why the motion or the recommendation here is to approve with these 5 conditions.
but you did explain to him that he could have had his 2 sites, like he was
Right,
looking at
that was
this morning
discussed.
before
Yep, and I think part of his hesitation with that is, we're to a point now where we've had 2 public hearings, we've done the noticing, we've done everything, so there's no refund on your application. He'd end up paying the fee twice if that was the direction he wanted to go. I really feel confident that we didn't leave that option off the table up front. We discussed all of the things, and that's why in his application he had the septic design in the application, and he has surveys and layouts and all that stuff was submitted just as we would have needed it to approve it as we're planning here today.
So, the way I seen it was, if he doesn't put the septic in, I mean, you look at it and yeah, you put a couple campers in there, you're gonna have to pull the campers out to get rid of the gray water, okay? It's so easy nowadays to go out and get a couple 250-gallon totes, so you got water, you got a pump, so you got water into your campers, okay? So are they gonna pull those campers out every time the tank gets full? And, it's easier because all of a sudden, next thing you know, there's gonna be 4 or 5 campers in there.
Yep.
And then we come back to the enforcement issue of the county. Who's on first, what's on second? I don't know, yeah.
Right.
So that's the question of, let's have him put the holding tank in, make sure he hooks the damn RVs up to it, and be done with it. Okay, if he wants to bring in a third one, who cares? As long as he's got the tank there, it keeps records of the tank getting pumped out. So,
Yep, and what you just explained is exactly what the Planning Commission was viewing also. And the township was there with great concern of if we don't have that holding tank, sewage is gonna end up in our township road ditches. And it's right off of 71, so potentially, there's a variety of options. And I'm certainly not accusing Chuck or any of his family of that, but again, we're looking at the long term, not the fact that Chuck owns it, but somebody's going to own it.
Right.
And potential for those types of hazards exist. And it's the obligation of the county to try to mitigate for that. And I think the conditions we have here achieve that.
and I know I had a discussion with Roger on the board on, people going across 71. I mean, you look at 169 over on Mille Lacs Lake, and you know what? There's a lot of businesses on the west side of 169 that cross the road to go into Mille Lacs Lake. So, I mean, it's just common sense that, you know, you don't want your kids running across 71, but, you know, use common sense, but. Any other discussion?
Just a little bit. Chuck was just, he wanted the CUP set up for, so you can have the 2 campsites in there right now, and then once the third one was ready to come in, then he would install the septic, and that's just not the way it was set up. It's set up as you can either, you know, like I said, take away your CUP now and have your 2 campsites, and then come back for the third one, then apply and do it all over again, and then, or just do it the right way from the get-go, and we're done with it, so.
Yep. And I agree with you, to do it right from the get-go, and then we don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
Because once, somebody's gonna have to go out there and inspect, make sure he's got that sewer in there, right?
And the
So-
planning and commission, they really did a good job explaining, we don't have the manpower to police all these every time. That's why we're making the conditions, put them in, and that way we don't have to keep back and forth checking on people's and make sure they're following the rules and the conditions set by the planning and zoning.
I agree.
So
what's the wishes, guys?
I'll make a motion to approve the CUP for the 6 campsites with the septic being installed before the first camper goes in.
Okay. So motion by Denny, is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Second by Becker. Any further discussion? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Danny?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Okay, secondly here, Daniel Miller requests for CUP, an application for a conditional use for production and sales of furniture and deer stands on parcel 0700364000 in Eagle Valley Township, was submitted on July 6th. The application was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the August 3rd public hearing, and the final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the permit with the conditions below. Options are to grant the permit with conditions, deny the application, or remand it back to the planning commission. Recommendation is to adopt the findings of the planning commission and grant the CUP on parcel 0700364000 with the following conditions. 1, should be no loading or unloading materials within the public roadway. 2, off-street parking shall be provided for all business traffic. 3, storage of supplies and finished products shall be stored meeting all setback requirements. 4, land use permits shall be required for all future construction. And 5, that the applicant must abide by all other applicable federal, state, and local standards. I believe I had a map included with this one to give you a rough idea of the location. It's difficult to see in that, but you can see on the south side there's kind of that cutout on the southern boundary. Basically on that north corner of that little cutout is where the site is. It's towards the center of that quarter there. So it's not up close to the road.
Okay. For the request, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Danny, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yep.
Okay, and lastly is the Dietrich Acres final plat. An application for a subdivision to establish a one-lot plat on parcels 24004260, 24006305, and 2400622200 in Turtle Creek Township. Was submitted on May 8th. Preliminary plat was approved on June 20th by the Board of Commissioners with no conditions. Planning and zoning has completed the review of Dietrich Acres and determined it is ready for final platting. Options are to approve the final plat as presented or deny the final plat. The recommendation is approval of final plat as presented to formally establish Dietrich Acres. This is the one where it was 2 different lots that Dietrich's already owned, and they're purchasing a chunk from the neighbors too to make their lot conforming in size because they want to build a shed. It had a variance granted for the existing easement that accesses it, and then in that they had a condition that they can't be establishing more development off of that. It's just for this single lot. But the map location and the final plat and stuff should be included in there.
Okay, you've heard the request, is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Becker, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion. If none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. So gotta do this. All right,
Gonna get this on the screen. Here we go.
administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a board action this morning that's just a discussion item, and the topic is discussion to consider an ordinance regulating use of cannabis and cannabis-derived products in public places. So the background is Minnesota legislature passed the adult use cannabis bill this session, legalizing the use, possession, and sale of cannabis in Minnesota. The possession and personal growing of cannabis became legal August 1 of 2023, and retail, agriculture, and manufacturing cannabis businesses is proposed to become licensed sometime in early 2025. Local governments have time to consider zoning needs, licensing needs, fees, laws, law enforcement, training needs, and other issues. However, with the legal use occurring on August 1st of 2023, Todd County may want to consider regulating whether cannabis can be used in public places at this time. The proposed ordinance prohibits the use of cannabis in public places and places of public accommodation. So with this, Mr. Chair, this was, the commissioners had asked me to bring forward some information, and we know that other counties are in process, have already had public hearings, are discussing things such as this. Cities are looking at ordinances, and there's just a lot of discussion around this topic with legislation being passed pretty quickly at the state and with not a lot of rules. So in order to maybe help regulate what's going on, there's some interest to look at prohibiting this in public places such as parks, trails, maybe the fairgrounds. In the cities, you would look at sidewalks and things of that nature. We did have a meeting with the cities last week. I believe it was Wednesday. And invited cities to come. We had a couple of cities come. We had county attorney present, Health and Human Services director, commissioners took part in that. The sheriff was there, and just had some discussions on how does, if the county passed an ordinance, how does that affect the cities? Just had some really, really good discussion on that, and we realized we don't have all of the answers. But we are continuing to seek those answers and try to make some good decisions or help guide the board in making good decisions on what this means for us.
Okay, what's your guys' wishes?
To move forward with this, we would have to have a
Public hearing.
public hearing, right? So there has to be time for advertising of the public hearing.
Yes.
And then after the public hearing, then we'd be brought back to the board.
Yes, that is correct. Yep.
Okay,
I'll make a motion for a recommendation, but I guess I would like in the recommendation, Todd County may want to consider regulating whether cannabis can be used in public places at this time. With the proposed ordinance prohibits of cannabis in public places and places of public accommodations. And I know we had visited with the city of Staples, and does the county trump the cities? Because the city of Staples has 2 parks that are located within Todd County. And hopefully some of those questions we'll get answers to.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, if I could just comment a little more on what Commissioner Becker is talking about with the city having, is it Dower Park?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And Pine Grove Park.
And Pine Grove Park, and both of those fall outside of the city limits. So if the city is interested in having some prohibition in public places, they don't have that control, and they would lean on the county to have that control over those areas that fall under county areas. So I think another interesting piece that we'll want to keep a close eye on, we know that as counties try to figure this out, we do have a county who's looking at adding language that is related to public health nuisance. And if that maybe would give us a broader scope on how this is applied county versus city. And Jackie just shared that information this morning on that. And if you want to maybe add something to that, Jackie.
So I learned on Friday that Wright County is looking at an ordinance that would include the jurisdiction of the entire county, which would include the cities, so which would cover that park. But it would fall under Minnesota Statute 145A.05, which is public health, which is really to look at the health and wellness of your community health for your adolescents and adults and older populations, and what that secondary smoke could possibly do with usage. So I do have a sample of their ordinance. I don't know that it's been approved by the county yet, but they are, sounds like adding that public health component, and their jurisdiction is all of the county. So that would include your cities and all your parks and public places.
okay.
So, Mr. Chair, with that, this was brought as a discussion item, but I do have a board action prepared in the event that you as commissioners would like to move forward with setting a public hearing date.
So I'm assuming that's what your motion was on?
That would be my motion, is to set a public hearing date
Okay,
for discussion of this.
all right. So we have a motion by Commissioner Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Denny. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Do
Do we need a date?
That would be nice. I was just
Okay.
gonna say that.
So just as a kind of a guidance
should
tool, that would be
reread
the 19th of September, I believe, would be, allow us the appropriate time frame for publishing all the notices. And September 19th is our, that would be the second meeting in September.
Do we gotta do that like 60 days out when we set it, or 30 days out?
We
I think-
just need time for publication.
Right.
We have, yeah.
And
So
has it
by
gotta be
doing
publicized 3 times, or no? I'm just
publish
asking.
twice
Twice. Okay,
for a public hearing,
right.
yes.
Okay.
And I'll go by the recommendation that is on this board action then.
So September 19th,
Yes.
okay, during the board meeting, all right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, any further discussion? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Nasca?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Chair, just so we know that at the 19th, that's the first hearing. You have to have 2 hearings.
Right.
So will you be following on the 19th, setting a next hearing date, or?
Yes, I went by the guidance
Yeah.
of the Auditor
Right.
Treasurer's Office, who are following the rules that they have in place.
So
Yep.
we'll have to set a second hearing date
Okay,
as well.
all right. Right now?
Well, we should.
So how long, so the second hearing would be, for a board meeting would
Yes.
be, what board meeting
Then
then?
you would follow like the next month, because we'd need 2 weeks to
Yep.
advertise for that one.
Okay.
So the following month we'd have.
It would need to be a month from the September
Well, because you
19th.
need 2 more weeks.
If
to
we do the
advertise for that.
19th and then do what, the 24th? Is that too far apart, or?
I don't have my calendar open, I'm sorry.
Okay, so Denise, you're looking for the second meeting in October.
We got
Yes.
the election coming up right after that on the
It
20th.
would be
would
the
say.
17th.
It would be
Right.
the 17th, that is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And I can get a second, or do you want to just leave it within that same board action?
If you're okay with that,
I'm-
Commissioner Becker, that was your.
Yes.
Okay. So the first one will be September 19th, and the second one will be
October 17th.
October 17th, correct?
Yes.
All right. Okay, we're good to go.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Mr. Chair. The next board action that I have, if I can just get this zoomed up on the screen so I can read it. Thank you for being patient. So the next board action is to approve a lease agreement for Long Prairie Hockey Association. And the background is the Long Prairie Hockey Association has expressed an interest in renewing the lease agreement with Todd County for use of the Expo Building for the 2023-2024 hockey season. The 2022 lease agreement included language that the rent amount would be redetermined to include annual incremental increase. Todd County has implemented a 2% annual increase to lease agreements for Region 5 Hands of Hope and this LPHA agreement. The Finance Committee recommends to continue this annual increase to the LPHA lease agreement. The options are to renew this lease agreement or do not renew, and the recommendation is to renew. And I will share with you, if I can, please, that this is a 3-year lease agreement, and this would be the 3rd year of that 3-year agreement, but the board had requested that this come back each year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion, but I also looked up on the August 2nd meeting of last year. Well, I gotta try to get it on my phone here. That this will be coming up annually, and does this lease agreement state this?
The lease agreement is a 3-year lease agreement, but it states that it will be reviewed annually.
Annually?
Yep.
Very good.
Mhm.
Okay. So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Any further discussion? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Nasca?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, so the next board action that I have is to set the 2024 non-union and appointed official salaries. And the background is the Todd County Board of Commissioners desire to set salaries for appointed positions and employees not covered by a collective bargaining agreement. The wage recommendations on the attached resolution have been reviewed by the Personnel Committee and have been budgeted for 2024. The options are to approve a resolution setting 2024 non-union and appointed official salaries, or to not approve, and the recommendation is to approve. And if I can scroll down without losing my page settings, that would be really nice. Okay, so the resolution sets this at the 2.5 general wage increase that we have set. And there's language down towards the bottom that talks about those who are over max. The language was left in there about those over max, but there is nobody at this time. So I just wanted to make sure that the resolution reflected that there isn't anybody over the max at this time.
Okay. We've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Thank you. And the next board action that I have and resolution is regarding the commissioner's salary. So the board action is to adopt the attached resolution for the 2024 county commissioner's salary. I'm going to scroll down here. With setting salaries for elected officials, including county commissioners, the board actions are, or the resolution has blank spots on it, just so you're aware of that. In front of you, you do have a wage table, and I'll talk about through the finance committee. What has been budgeted for the 2024 salary of the commissioners is a 2.5% increase, and that puts the commissioners at a salary of $35,084. That's what's been put into the budget for this year. Currently, the chair receives an annual stipend of $1,800, and the vice chair receives an annual stipend of $1,200.
Okay. You've heard the request. Let's open it up for discussion first.
Mr. Chair, if I could just ask that we kind of speak close so Commissioner Naska can hear too, just a reminder.
Lou, can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Okay.
got you, Randy.
All right.
If you're looking for some comment here, if I may, Randy, would that be okay right now?
Fine.
Okay. I look at this and I think that 2.5% looks about right for just the cost of living part. But I'm gonna lean on you and Commissioner Becker for some advice on what the chair and the vice chair get, because it seems like for the amount of extra meetings you get, and considering we don't get any per diem per meeting like some of the surrounding counties do, maybe that's a little low. Maybe we should be at more like 2,000 and 1,500 for the chair and vice chair. I'm open for a discussion on that as well.
Okay. Well, and for me, it's we have a lot of committee assignments that we are first of the year that we appoint each other to, and we need to attend these meetings and report back to our constituents that we are attending these meetings. And it was unexpected that Commissioner Erickson passed away. I mean, but it did put more pressures on, I think, the chair and vice chair, as we're covering more meetings. And yeah, and thank God we were salary. And the reason why we went away from the per diems, and I'll be honest with you, is because we had another commissioner that said, well, geez, it's costing the taxpayers money for, say, if Commissioner Becker couldn't make it, I'd go. Okay? Well, then I'd get a per diem for that. And it's like, since we went away from the per diems, if Commissioner Becker can't make it and I can go, it's not costing any more money. Yeah, I get paid mileage, but at least we're attending the meetings. We're being involved with the other counties. It's a valuable asset to, like, AMC conferences, to attend them, to learn from the other commissioners from the other areas what's going on, what issues they're dealing with, how they resolved issues. It just makes you a better commissioner. our salary is very good, and I'll be honest with anybody. Is it a full-time position? Hell yeah. And I'll tell anybody that right now. It is a full-time position. Not only are we dealing with our committees and packets, and some of our packets are 30, 40 pages long, okay? So when we go to these meetings, we gotta know what the hell we're talking about, or at least try. Then you're dealing with the phone calls. Then you're dealing with the emails. And constituents are always, I mean, we're on call 24/7. I'll be honest. They call at any time. They ask questions. They ask for our help. So, I don't know. I would personally, this year, I'd just like to freeze the wages and for the county board, but that's my opinion. The rest of you guys can make that decision, but, you know, we go back to per diems, we're gonna have to go back to a set salary, okay? Then it's more work for not only the commissioners, but it's more work for the auditor treasurer because of our reporting and making sure that we get everything reported, so. Mr. Becker, thoughts?
I don't think we should, I think we should go with that 2.5 because otherwise you're gonna get so far behind, you're not gonna have anybody run for the board. I'm sorry, but it is. There's a lot of commitment to it. My other suggestion with Commissioner Noska also is I don't mind raising the chairs, but I think the vice chair should be raised higher than 1,500. I proposed that the last time when I left the chair position quite a few years ago, because the vice chair, they're pretty much at every meeting the chair is at.
You're shirt-tailed to the chair.
You are. And they should almost be equal in my, because if the chair is not there, then the vice chair
Right.
will be there. And all of our meetings, personnel meetings, both the chair and vice chair attend.
Okay, Mr. Denny, what's your thought?
I also agree with Commissioner Noska on raising it, but yeah, like he mentioned earlier, we do have to lean on you two for a little bit of guidance on this path, because obviously we can see, you got to lead by example how much commitment it takes for those two positions. So Commissioner Becker brought a good point. If you are attending the same ones, or if you are, like you said, shirt-tailing each other, then yeah, maybe we should get those two a lot closer, if not the same number, you know. So, yeah.
Okay. So leave them, what are you suggesting for,
I'll make a motion. I'll go with that 2.5 increase for 23 and putting the chair and vice chair at 2,000 extra.
Okay.
For a stipend.
Mr. Chair, can I just clarify that's for 2024?
Yes,
Yep.
it is. Did I say 23?
You did, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
okay, so this is motion by Becker, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Denny. Any further discussion? Roll call vote?
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Noska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
No.
Okay, I'm just going to get this page set up again. And the next we have establishing the 2024 county attorney salary. And at our last board meeting, work session actually, we had discussion about all the elected officials' salaries. The county attorney had a packet that was presented to all of you as commissioners, and it talked about his experience, performance, all of those things that we have to look at. And you have in front of you some information regarding the comparable counties. The county attorney has budgeted and requested a 5% increase, which would be it would Be $132,949, and I believe the auditor's office just rounds that, so it would be $132,950. So his request is a 5% increase over the 2023.
All right, you heard the request. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant the 5% as the attorney had requested for the 2024 salary.
Motion by Becker, is there a second?
I'll second that.
I'll second that. Sorry, Tim.
You can give it to Lou. It's fine.
Give it to Lou.
Yeah.
Second by Nazca.
Sure. Am I lagging quite a bit here, guys?
Just a little. Just a touch, Lou, not too bad.
No.
Okay.
All right. Motion by Becker, second by Nazca on county attorney's salary. Is there any further discussion? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes?
Commissioner Nasca?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll get the next one set up here. Thank you for your patience. So the next one is to establish the 2024 County Auditor Treasurer salary. And the same as what we've done with County Attorney. At the last, at the work session, you heard from the Auditor Treasurer about experience and performance and knowledge and all of those pieces. You have the comparable counties in front of you. The budgeted and the requested salary is a 6% increase at $106,725.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
I will make a motion for the 6% for the salary of the 2023 Auditor Treasurer.
2020, I'm sorry, Chair, Mr. Chair, 2024.
Oh, I see that on top.
Sorry.
2024.
It's just a year off.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. Okay, we got a motion. Is there a second to that?
Can I ask for some discussion before that second, Commissioner Newman?
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm looking at all of our numbers here in our elected positions, and you know, this one here, it's unique, I know, and I think our auditor treasurer does a fantastic job. But I think what we're doing here by 6% is almost pushing ourselves over the top, just a little bit. And I don't know, with the levy we've got coming and building on that, I don't think us setting the bar is where we really need to be. I would rather propose, say, a 4% increase rather than a 6%, but that's up for discussion for the rest of you as well.
Okay.
If I could, Mr. Chair, I guess as I look at our elected and non-elected, I don't know if you got that, Lou, piece of paper that shows all the salary within the top officials. And I don't think the auditor is in that list that out of place. You also got to remember, as elected officials, we don't always get that 3% step. And in years, we haven't gotten that 3% step. So your non-elected officials sometimes surpass the elected officials. And from year to year, the percentage they get changes, you know. So I would keep that in mind, because the step is not available to the elected officials.
Does that answer your question, Lou? Kind of? Well, it's, you gotta look at it that way. If they get 2.5 and 3 in July, that's 5.5%, okay? In order for our electeds to keep up with this stuff, is you gotta ask yourself the question, is the responsibility of the assessor more than the job duty of the elected auditor treasurer? And you look at what the auditor treasurer's responsibilities are, and they're pretty great. And I don't get very many calls about the auditor treasurer like I do on the assessor side of it. So 35 years plus dedicated Todd County employee. I mean, you got to have a little longevity there. I don't know. So, any further discussion? I need a second on this.
I understand what Commissioner Noska is getting at, and so as Commissioner Becker as well. I think what Lou is kind of alluding to is that if we do this, is it are we going to be eventually at a unattainable salary year after year? But we're working on this year right now, so we got to focus on that. But again, Randy, you make a good point about the responsibilities and all the that go along with that position. And we all got to see in Denise's email last week that it was quite substantial, all the things that that department has to handle. So if you want that 6% this year on Commissioner Becker's motion, I guess I will second it for 2024 or 2024 budget.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Motion by Becker. We have a second by Denny. Further discussion? Lou?
No, I mean, I'm good with that. We got justification for it all. I just think that, you know, if we keep in this trend on this position, I mean, it's 6-7 years. It may get out of hand if we keep at 6% going forward, but we'll have to address that going forward.
And that's, Lou, that's the hard part about the county board setting the elected's salary. It's, you know, puts the pressure on us, and you want to make it fair and equitable. You know, I think we're all fiscally responsible to the taxpayers of Todd County, but yeah, it's hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, anyways, we got a motion by Becker, second by Danny. Any further discussion? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Noska?
No.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item I have is to establish the 2024 county recorder salary. Same thing, you received information from our current county recorder, Kim Basil, regarding her duties, her responsibilities, her performance. You have comparable county data in front of you. Within the county recorder's budget for 2024, it has been budgeted a 6% increase for a total of $71,020 for her salary for 2024.
Okay, further request?
I will go ahead and make the motion for the request of 6% for the 2024 recorder's wage.
Okay, we have a motion by Becker. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Danny. Discussion? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Noska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Thank you. And the next board action that I have is to establish the 2024 county sheriff's salary. Same thing, you've received information from our sheriff regarding his performance, experience, education, and you also have the comparable county data in front of you for 2023. The request from the sheriff and the budgeted amount is a 3% increase, which would be a total of $110,210.
Okay, you've heard the request.
I will go ahead and make a motion for the 2024 sheriff's salary at his request of a 3% increase.
Okay. A motion by Becker. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Noska. Discussion.
Yeah, if I may, Commissioner Newman. we're pretty low on this one, and I know Mike requested the 3% to match with his staff, but going forward, we're gonna have to address this next year again on how low we will be compared to other counties, and we may have to look at giving him a bump up more than 3%, even if he requests it next year.
I agree with you 100%.
I agree also.
Okay. Any further discussion? If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All righty. Thank you all for that. Auditor Treasurer's report.
I have today to report the election results. We canvassed them last Friday. I just wanted to let everybody know they were officially canvassed Friday the 11th and reported to the state. Total number of persons voting was 395. Bob Byers was the top recipient of 335. Bob Kuntz with 112. Otis Ossendorf with 110. And Dave Freeman with 37. The canvassing board has determined that Bob Byers and Bob Kuntz will be the candidates moving on to the general election plan for November 7th, 2023. A recount request period for this election event closes tomorrow, Wednesday, August 16th. It is not mandated an automatic one. The individual would have to request a recount. And then also we have the Upsala School District had a special election for 2 bond questions, and the results are as follows. Question number 1 for HVAC and building repairs passed by 194 votes, and question number 2 for other building changes failed by 18 votes. I kindly remind the board and other members of the county staff, if you have any election questions come before you by candidates or general public, that you should address them to the county auditor treasurers, as we're the election officials that are trained by the state of Minnesota. We have to pass certification and know our laws. And I just don't want the county being liable for any misinformation. So anybody in the public or has any questions, please direct them to myself or my office.
Okay.
And that's the results from the last 2 elections.
Okay.
Also a reminder, I have also on my notes is August 31st is mobile home taxes. So we're starting to see those come in.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right, thank you. County Attorney?
I appreciate the board approving or entertaining the idea of replacing the assistant who's leaving my office. It's going to be a great loss. We're hanging in there. We're still very busy, but that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners? Lou, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. Since our last meeting, it's been really business as usual. But other than that, we did attend that solid waste biannual meeting, and I was really impressed at the condition that facility is in at this point. And I mean, the organization and it seems like the team is really there working together. So I was really impressed to see that. It was good for me being first time on that meeting. So that helped. And then we did the canvassing also. So, but that's about it for things out of the ordinary.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Denny?
Yeah, we had a couple, at a Hilltop meeting, then we had the Hilltop meeting yesterday, the other commissioners and Mike Wiener. We got some tour of the school and the auditorium, along with a good meal. Again, like Lou said, transfer station, went out there, and we, staffing out there and Mike have done a great job with that building and preserving that and getting that back to a good workable condition. And then there was last night at Todd County Development meeting, a lot of new potential happening around the city of Staples. We're getting some good traction on some of the buildings going to be reused and whatnot, and some exciting things coming down the road for that area. So which is really nice to see. But yeah, and then did some canvassing, some ballots for the first time, and then that was really exciting. So other than that was yeah, it's just nothing new to report back to.
Okay, good. Mr. Becker?
We had finance meeting, the cannabis meeting with the cities, which I thought was very good. A lot of input and a lot of questions. A budget meeting, a wellness meeting, Todd County Public Health meeting we had by Zoom, one of the first ones that was totally by Zoom. Department head meeting, solid waste meeting, soil and water, Rainbow Rider. I had corrections last night, and then Hilltop Kitchen yesterday morning.
All right, since the last board meeting, I had Sauk River, then CPT meeting in Morris, personnel, finance, facilities, fairground walkthrough, Central Minnesota Council on Aging. Then we had the board meeting, work session, opioid, finance, property signing, personnel, met with Adam, property signing, property, department head, yeah, soil and water, solid waste, Rainbow Rider, Hilltop, met with constituents yesterday on Highway 27 on a water issue after MnDOT redid 27. We've got some concerns there. So it's been interesting couple weeks. So is there anything else that needs to, coordinated report, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Many of the same meetings that you've mentioned I've attended, so I won't go through that list again. But I will be continuing to work with the cities and talk with the cities about this cannabis ordinance, this proposed ordinance, and questions that they may have. We are already starting some discussions on our class and comp study, which was passed at the last board meeting, so the work is already happening there. And just a reminder for you as commissioners that we do have the employee appreciation picnic happening tomorrow. So,
Okay.
not to add one more thing to your plate, but it should be a good one.
Okay. So I'm just going to add one more thing. August 31st is International Overdose Awareness Day. You are requested to wear purple on August 31st. So with that, is there anything else that needs to come in front of this board? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn for the month of August.
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny. Discussion? If none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Noska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes. And we are adjourned at what? 10:48? 2023 Todd County Board of Commissioners work session to order. And on the agenda today, we have soil and water conservation, tree planter discussion. Go ahead, Deja.
Okay, thank you. We were present, I don't know, a couple weeks ago at another work session, and you guys gave me 4 tasks, basically. And one of the things was asking about insurance. And when I posed questions, asked around, and looked at the MCIT information that was provided, if we were to opt to go with a tree planter from the DNR, it would have to go on the county's inland marine insurance schedule. And this, it's that type of insurance covers items that are typically excluded by regular property coverage. And it's usually on property that's transported or moves between locations. Other items that probably are already on your inland marine schedule would be like if the sheriff has a boat trailer, the drone is required to be on that. That type of equipment is on there. It does cover theft, damage due to theft, fire, wind, hail, or water. It can include protection from damage or loss due to accident or mishandling, or in the event of undetermined causes of missing property. So that's one thing for you to consider. The second question that was asked of me is, what are the typical rental fees? And I went between the 2 states, both Wisconsin and Minnesota, and they were all over the place. There is no typical rental fee. I've learned that. They went from $25 a day to $150 a day to, based on the number of trees planted, so 1 cent per tree planted to 5 cents per tree planted. And then as far as damage deposits, $250 was the highest damage deposit that I saw. And we'll look at the suggested contract in a minute. And then there was talk about storage and maintenance. So the DNR does not do the maintenance on it. This is would be property owned by Todd County. I talked with Public Works and with Lauren, and we went back and forth between a couple areas. He's got the northern site, we've got the site here in town, and then the Little Sock site. Because he was like, yeah, we could tuck it inside. And then we talked about the issue of people getting in, having to have access to that for those couple of months each year. So we agreed that it actually would be better to store outside in Long Prairie at their Public Works. He has a location that would set there and fit it. And we'd probably have some sort of lock on it. The key would be kept in the soil and water. They do not want to do any administration of paperwork, obviously. And then we talked about maintenance. And like Commissioner Denny said, rarely do tree planters need maintenance. They're pretty rugged pieces of equipment. You might have a coulter or bearing that goes occasionally. Lauren said that if that were to happen, if we were to order the parts or whatever, that his crew could actually do the work, that they'd be willing to do that. So that's kind of where we're at with that it would be kept during the season at Public Works, and then would put it into the fairgrounds or under roof somewhere over winter. So that was his suggestion. And then you did ask me to come up with a draft agreement. And I tried to this is as a customer, it might seem a little rough, a little severe. Obviously, this will be reviewed by John and let us know if this covers everything. But I looked at probably 10 to 15 different contracts. And then I took the skeleton of one and then added in everything that I thought would help address you and the supervisor's concerns. So we can just go to number one right away, that they would pay a $200 damage deposit up front. And the rental charge, we chose $100, but that's malleable. It doesn't have to be $100, but this is for example purposes. And both of those would have to be paid prior to picking up and obtaining the key to unlock and access the tree planter at Public Works. They would provide all necessary labor, power, and supplies required for the legal transportation and safe operation of the tree planting machine. And we would develop guidelines for operation and safety. I looked at developing that ahead, but without having the exact tree planter there, it seemed like a waste of my time. Renter agrees to return the tree planting machine to whatever specified location that the county agreed on, no later than a certain time. Unless prior request is made by the renter to Todd SWCD for approval, the renter agrees to pay a late fee of suggested $25 an hour, and that's pretty severe. But if they know that's on that contract, I bet you they'll be trying really hard to get it back to us on time. In the event the tree planter is not returned by the specified time. Now, obviously, if something major happened and they contacted us, you know, that could be negotiable. But renter agrees that the county, its agents, employees, officials, or officers may enter upon renter's premises or property at any time to secure the return of the tree planting machine. Unless otherwise agreed upon, a pickup fee of $100 will be charged to the renter. And this would be only in the event that it wasn't returned to the Todd SWCD in a timely manner. Renter agrees to return the tree planting machine to lesser, or Todd SWCD, whatever the word would be better, or county, in as good condition and in repair as when received by the renter. A renter will provide proof of full coverage insurance at time of pickup. Renter assumes all liability for the transportation operation, maintenance, repair, including tire repair. I saw that in one of the contracts and I thought that was kind of good. And use of the tree planting machine. Renter agrees to report damage of maintenance needs prior to executing any repair to obtain SWCD approval in advance. Whether we want them to touch it or not, that would be determined. Renter agrees to defend, hold harmless, and identify county from any and all liability arising in connection with or directly or indirectly out of renter's transportation operation, maintenance, repair, or use of the tree planting machine, including liability for any defect or failure of the tree planting machine. Renter's duty to defend, hold harmless, and indemnify county shall survive the termination of this agreement. And then at the bottom, you can see where they would sign, and the specified dates would be placed there. So that's kind of the draft agreement that I would be asking John to review. The one thing that I thought of as I was sitting here is that maybe we want to add no subleasing into that contract as well. So, the terms of the actual guidelines, those would be include how the equipment is to be picked up, and then things like the type of landowner the equipment needs in order to pull the equipment. Maybe we need a slow-moving vehicle warning sign attached, transportation speeds, what they should not exceed, equipment prep and follow-up inspections, training requirements for renters before they use the equipment, what to do in case of a breakdown, manual and safety features of the equipment, and any potential required personnel protective items. And then they would have to sign that guideline ahead as well. So the contract, the guidelines, and the fee up front before they get the key.
All right.
Mr. Chair, yeah. Who's gonna pay for the insurance on, the county's gonna pay for the insurance? Soil and Water's gonna pick up the insurance bill?
I would assume it would be the county, in the fact that it's the county's property.
Okay,
And you
so-
could take it and sell it, do whatever, I don't know, you know, so.
So what if it's a piece of equipment and someone would get caught in a piece of equipment and get bodily injured? Would the county then be responsible? That would be the county's and not the Soil and Water.
There's a couple things in here, but I think that inland insurance does cover accidental. And if it's your employee that gets caught, that would be,
Yeah, but it wouldn't be one of our employees. It would be the person using it, so it would be whoever was rented out to.
yes. And that's where this could, hopefully John can help answer that, because I am not a lawyer. Whether that is this enough to cover protection of the county by saying they release and indemnify the county in that incident?
Mr. Chair, if I were a member of the public looking at this, and I read the part about including liability for any defect or failure of the tree planting machine, I would be hard pressed to sign this, because I think there's softer assumption of risk language that we could use, but the first part of paragraph 9 as it's written, if we had a period after or use of tree planting machine, I think that would indemnify us just fine.
Okay.
And thank you, John. I know this was like a conglomeration, and it is severe, because I just want to make sure that we're covering concerns. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Most of the machines I'm looking at online right now are all 3-point hitch
Mm-hmm.
with, wheels on the back.
This, we did not recommend that, and you're right.
So do you have any information or pictures that you can share with the board as far as what we're looking at to purchase?
I can forward it to you. It didn't bring one up, but it is mechanical. It's not going to be hydraulic, and the reason, even Lauren had said it's a lot easier for maintenance-wise and that sort of thing if it's not hydraulic. As a farmer, I'd probably prefer hydraulic, and I've stated that at a meeting with the supervisors, but.
Right. Okay.
I would agree too. I would prefer hydraulic, but in a rental situation, less to go wrong is always better.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and then you're dealing with different hookups on different tractors and.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the majority that I did see that were used for rental equipment were 3-point hitches or with hydraulics. Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna bring this to our next board meeting, I'm assuming, on.
If you feel like it's ready and John has time to review everything.
Mr. Chair, the only concern, I've read through this a couple times now, the only concern that I had is, I think, the need to define what full coverage insurance means.
Mhm.
I'm not an insurance guy, but I'm aware that there's something called like an umbrella policy, which would cover me, for example, anywhere I go in pretty much any situation where I might be found liable. If that's what we're contemplating, let's call it what it is, so the customer knows.
Yep.
And then, what sort of limit are we gonna require? Is it $1 million umbrella? Is it a $10 million umbrella, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I think it's pretty solid with a little bit of tweaking.
Denise, have you been in contact with the insurance at all?
I just had
You
the
have
first
not.
conversation to reach out to them to find
Okay.
out, but my couple questions would be, in this agreement, are you defining days as 24-hour periods or calendar days? If somebody takes it on a Friday, do they get it all weekend and not get charged for the weekend? I mean, you gotta define days too.
Yep.
And like a 24-hour period. And then my other question would be, like, the rental for the fairgrounds for us, anybody that uses it has a liability policy. It's $1 million policy that they bring in. I don't know what the guidelines would be here, but that's just automatic. Anybody that uses anything is, everyone I've ever seen, $1 million, $1 million, $1 million. So That's just what I know from what I see downstairs. And then my other question would be, or concern is, this is all being handled through your office and your accountant is going to do the receipting of the deposits and the rental agreements? Okay.
Yep. And kind of going to her question, it's really up to the county what they want for that umbrella coverage. I saw anywhere from 250 to 500,000, up to, what'd you say, $1 million?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most ones I see downstairs, everybody, it doesn't matter if it's just like a day, they'll come in with $1 million. It must be kind of a writer's liability policy that they write, a liability policy, because it's just always $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
As far as,
Which seems like a lot, but I mean, that's, must be standard in the insurance world.
yeah, I think that's like, in mine, I just put my insurance name down, I rent something, and that's just, I don't have to bring nothing, it's just, if they called him, they would just be a phone call and be like, yes, that's what we have on for him, so. But as far as addressing the rental hourly, a lot of them, I mean, obviously there's a gate on that one, so, I mean, maybe just establish like 9, check out at 9 a.m. to return by 9 a.m. That way it's, and then over the weekend, yeah, you'd have to figure in a weekend rate or whatever, but.
Right.
Yeah, just so we know that the gate's gonna be open and whatnot, and,
Mm-hmm.
but, otherwise, yeah, I like it. With those few changes, yeah. Thank you
Right.
for doing all the work, appreciate that.
Commissioner Noska, you got anything on it?
No, I think it's a great asset to have here for people of Todd County. I know there has been a lot of demand for it, so I think it looks good.
Okay. All right, thanks. All righty. Keep the i's dotted, t's crossed, and bring her back.
Alrighty.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank you,
much.
guys.
All right. Jolene. Denise.
All right, well, we're here with the 24 budget, 24 levy discussion. You've sat through finances, Friday morning, it was very nice, we did the canvassing, and then Commissioner Denny did ask if we could go through finance with him, and Lou happened to be here, so he sat in it as well. So we got to get the two that are not on finance up to speed, but, we're gonna kinda go through this, so, you understand what our impacts are and what we had, our homework we had did. The key expenses that we're looking at for the 2024 budget are economic impacts due to inflation, we know that. We've seen that in all of our bills, we've seen it in your home bills. I'm sure everybody else's checkbook at home is looking a little short these days, and that's just due to the cost of living. And we're feeling it here at the county as well. Things are on the rise. Employee compensation and health insurance, we are in a labor agreement for 3 years, so we know what we're going to be spending there. Health insurance is still to be determined. We kind of know what the cap is. We know for our building projects and improvements, we still have the solid waste transfer station process in work. We have the Todd County building maintenance, various facilities that we're always looking out for, and the rock wall project. The Finance Committee timeline, we started on May 18th, where we set out all the worksheets to all the departments. Round 1, we did a review on June 7th and June 12th with departments. We called them in. Our net budget at that point was 8.96, an increase from the previous year, and the levy was 9.79. That was shocking, a little devastating for us to go, okay, where do we begin our cuts? What do we need to look at? We put our pencil to the paper, we started looking, started digging, found some funds. Round 2, we had called in the department heads and held reviews on June 28th and July 18th and July 25th and August 2nd, and it just kept digging and digging and digging. At that point in time, we were able to get the budget down to 6.19, an increase, and the levy to 3.88. Good job on the work that was done. Budget reductions of $522,000 some dollars were made in reviewing, and levy reductions were over $1 million that we found in our 2024 proposals. The timeline now that we're looking at is today we're here presenting to the commissioners during a work session to update you. If you have any questions, this would be the time to ask, so that we can bring it before our board and get it approved. We do have to have it certified by the end of September, and it does take myself and my staff a little bit of time to input all this data into the format that the state requires us to do that. So as we're presenting it today, it looks like our levy is going to be 3.88. This is preliminary, so it's a work in progress. By the time we finalize it in December, we can go down. Looking ahead, we have reasons to maintain a balanced budget would be legislative proposals may create unfunded mandates. We know that. We were already hearing that from our our groups that we're in, our committees that we're on, that we're sitting. We're hitting that this stuff is going to be coming down. We've heard it from our legislators. Economic impacts due to inflation may continue to affect us as supply and demand and costs increase. And so this is the overall preliminary budget as you see it. It does show you what the 2022, what the 2023, and what our 2024 budget is looking like in each of these categories. Our general fund, comprehensive water plan, library, county fair, public works, human services, parks and trails, public health, bonded indebtedness. So the total budget there is the 20 million. Like I said, it's going to be the 6.19. But then we have program aid that came in that helped substantially. Last year it was 1.5. This year it's 2 million. So that offset that, bringing it, the actual levy to the taxpayers is 3.88. So at this time, what we're planning to do is schedule county work sessions or department reviews if the board directs us to do so. If we need to go back and discuss anything, but what we'd like to see is the September 5th board meeting is when we actually bring this preliminary budget and levy to the board for you to set, so we can start getting our homework done in a timely manner, and then also set the TNT meeting date, time, and location at that meeting. And that's what we'll be looking in our future updated things for the county board to decide. Moving forward, we like to get as much information out in that TNT and supplement that we'll be sending out to all of the taxpayers so that they can be aware. I guess our office is in the firm believing the more we can educate them and let them understand, the better reception we get when tax statements actually go out. Does anybody at this time have any questions on any of the things we went through? Like I said, Barb and Randy, as chair and vice chair, do sit on this. They are at a lot of meetings to get through this entire budget. Commissioner Denny and Commissioner Noska took the time on Friday morning to sit for about an hour and a half and go through, just to get the highlights of what we have worked on all summer. But pretty proud of the board and what they've done, and the finance committee, and working with all the department heads to find these cuts, because there were things that we could cut. There were a lot of funds that large departments could come up with. I know public health and human services came in real good for us, and Lauren at the highway department found some more state aid and programs that he could utilize. Our soil water conservation district came in with some more grants that offset. So some of our larger items, sheriff's department came in with some reductions as well.
If I may, Denise, when do we usually set the TNT meeting?
It's usually, we try to run that right after Thanksgiving, that kind of that last week in
So in November.
First week in December. But when we do that first week in December, it runs in with your AMC. So I really like to back it off to follow right after Thanksgiving, that last weekend
In November.
That seems to work the best. Once in a while, we've thrown it in December, and that just gets too late for us. For getting our work done by the end of the year then as well. Because we have pre-audit going on in December. We have getting all the data entered again for the state on this. So it really gets to be a crunch.
Last year, it looks like we did it the second meeting, or the second week of December.
And that just gets to be too,
Yeah, because the first week we would have been at AMC, and so then that meeting gets pushed back a week. Yeah.
so we're looking at the week of 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th of November. That would be a prime sweet spot in our office. Unfortunately, it does put more stress on my office to get the information out quicker, and then you have the Thanksgiving weekend of people visiting about it, but that's just what we have to deal with.
Well, that's about the same time the 24 proposed come out, right?
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
that's what we're talking
saying. And if we can beat that,
Truth and taxation notice is the proposed.
through the taxation notices, yeah, because it's just like
That's
every
the
year
same one we're
people
talking
get confused. So,
That would be what we would be sending, would be the proposed tax statement in November. They'll get it, several weeks before, and then the date will be the last week in
Yeah.
November that they can come to that meeting. Again, now that's just talking about budgets and levies.
Yep.
It's not talking about taxes, homestead,
well, and
values.
that's confusion that I'm
That's
trying
why we
to,
like to educate them. You
Yeah.
can come and ask, what is Public Works doing for me? What are you spending in the sheriff's
Right.
department? Those are the questions the taxpayers can come ask.
right,
How is it impacting the county levy?
yeah, because they get their property,
You can't come at that meeting and talk about, well, I was really upset because my value went up $30,000. No, you had that time in April to talk about it. And that's why, with the assessor, we work together to try to really educate the public
right.
on what these meetings mean and what you can be asking.
Yeah, and it just, for me, all these years doesn't make any sense because that's when they come in here and it's like, I wanna bitch about my taxes, and it's like, wrong meeting. You know, if you wanna talk about the budget, the proposed budget, yeah, go ahead, but,
Well, it's very confusing tax system. Minnesota is very complex. And then it also is confusing that we assess in one year, but you don't pay taxes on that assessment until the following year.
Yeah.
That confuses a lot of people as
Yes,
well.
it does.
Yes.
anything else? I just wanna thank staff, department heads, everybody for the hard work, getting it down to where it is. You know, we can still lower it maybe a little bit. We will see, and, but otherwise, a job very well done by everybody, so. Anything else?
No, thank you though.
Lou, thank you for joining us.
No, that's good. Thank you. Thanks for putting up with me.
All righty.